and welcome to Reliving My Youth. My name is Noel. My guest this week is Block. The anti-folk musician just released his sixth album, Love Crash, his first in 13 years. The album is very deeply personal to him. The songs deal with heartbreak, loss, but we also have the usual wit we come to expect from Block. He talks about why it took so long for the new album and what made him return to music. Block talks about the moment he discovered the anti-folk movement. In 1998, Glenn Ballard, known for co-writing and producing Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill, started the Capitol Records imprint Java and chose Block to be the first signed artist. Block was initially ready to turn down Glenn, but find out what Glenn said to him that changed his mind. Java released Block's second album, Timing is Everything, a fantastic album by the way. His cover of Perry Como's Catch a Falling Star was used in the opening credits of the movie Never Been Kissed. Really enjoyed my conversation with Block, and if you did, please rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. Here's my conversation with Block. So Jamie, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Really awesome to be here, Noel. And thanks for asking me.
Yeah, of course. So congratulations on the release of Love Crash, your first album in over a decade. It is fantastic. I guess the first question is, why the long delay?
Why the long delay? Well, the truth is, Noel, is that I had wasn't just taking a step back, I was done. So I was just living my life and doing the things that I do, and it didn't occur to me that I would record again. And what happened was that I ended uh, a pretty long relationship, um, and the subsequent time after that, kind of, I was so sort of cracked open from not only the end of that and grieving that, but then having some other um, romantic dalliances that and that in and of itself probably didn't do, sort of like unearth some like deep trauma or uh, pain, I guess. So I was very cracked open and emotionally distraught. And what happened was the guitar was there, and it's always been the place I go when I'm feeling um, horrible and lost and scared. Um, so, a lot of time had gone by since I'd done it. And I don't think I was doing it even with the thought that I would be releasing the music. But it was a place of refuge and solace and a way of trying to externalize what I was going through, and get through it. And then somewhere in that process, somewhat early on, I really liked the songs and was maybe for the first time in my year, much more in my career, much more open with like sharing songs before they were done, like first idea with other musicians and songwriters that I really respect and know. And they gave me a lot of really great feedback. And then it just that started the ball rolling.
Yeah. I guess most songwriters feel like when they're like depressed is probably their best time to actually write songs, right? They come out with the best songs when they're actually depressed and heartbroken, right?
I don't know why that is. It's probably true. I mean, I think again, it's like this notion of what do you do with this pain, and that is therapeutic, to try to express it in a way that's not maudlin and overwrought. You begin to see the humor in it, maybe, and the humanity in it by going through that process, which then in turn helps you get through it.
Yeah. Do you feel like your songwriting process changed like over the decades?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't even when I listen to, this one of the cool things that happened is, as I was making the album, when I was toward the end, I met Blake Morgan at ECR Meridian, and he, I mean, at that point, I you couldn't even really find me on Spotify. It was like I had these weird, I mean, I guess you could if you really sort of knew everything to put into the search, but
Right.
he's the one that had the idea of re-releasing my catalog in preparation for this album, which was just an amazing process, remastering them and finding some new songs that I hadn't released during those time frames and releasing them as deluxe editions. So um, when I listened to the songs that I released in the 1990s, yeah, it's like listening to somebody else. I mean, I like them, which
Right.
is like me, but they sound like another
Person.
version, and I think one of the things that happens, at least it happened for me, is like, wow, with this much of a delay of a space between my last album, it did create a feeling of like, well, if you're gonna do this, am I allowed to curse on this?
Absolutely.
If you're allowed to, if you're gonna do this, you might as well fucking go to a place you haven't gone to,
Right.
emotionally, subject matter wise, and there are similarities, but I, technology is such that I mean, I recorded this pretty much the way people used to record, with the exception that I was able to use like the voice memo on my iPhone
Right.
to kind of continue to craft them over and over. I mean, whatever. In 1998, I would have used a tape recorder, so that's really not different.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do something that I was really proud of, and that didn't um, step away from uh, something that was emotionally raw, like something like "Song to Jamie" is a song I wrote to my 5-year-old self. I mean, I
Right.
never wrote a song like that. I wouldn't have even known that even meant.
I'm singing you a song. Your mom and your dad are long gone. It's got a secret buried inside. All the bullshit that fed you were lies. You're amazing and perfect and brave. And I love you the more you misbehave. The world's gonna hate you, don't ever forget. The only time we got is the time we got left. I'll stand in the wings and I'll always be close. I've loved lots of things, but I love you the most. Your friends are gonna keep taking jabs. It's gonna twist you up inside. It's gonna make you feel sad. And the only escape is to let the tears flow. not telling you nothing you don't already know. You write with your left hand and you're grinding your gears. Time is an arrow through a bucket of tears. But the moon is outside and Jupiter too. Let's take one last walk, just me and you.
So anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's more the subject matter and the honesty I wanted to get even farther than I'd done in the past.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that song because I was going to ask you about Song to Jamie. So, what made you decide to write to as a 5-year-old? Like, what was so important about that age to you?
Well, I did do some things while I was in the province, in the creative provinces. Often in, I did a lot of work uh, because I was having trouble with my relationships in certain ways, like we all do. And I ended up doing some recovery work in a program called ACA, Adult Children of Alcoholics. And in that program, you reparent yourself.
Mm.
So you take, that's the goal. Like, in AA, the goal is to not drink and
Right.
sober, and which I did that 17 years ago. And that's the only reason you and I are having this conversation, right? Talking about I wouldn't be alive, but in the process of that recovery, I started to, and one of the um, not assignments, one of the workbook um, recommendations is to like start to imagine your 5-year-old self and begin to speak to that boy and comfort him and sort of really almost like externalize that part of yourself. And as you go through your day, reparent yourself, like be the parent that you didn't have. So that song, and I had done that work, basically a couple years before that, but that was one of the songs that when I woke up one morning, and the guitar was in a tuning that was a mistake. I moved around and one of the pegs had moved and it was in a very strange tuning, and then that was one of the ones that just flowed out basically as it is on the song. Just it was a gift. It just that one just came out from beginning to end. So I like, but that was an example. I mean, I was very like, oh my gosh, I'm a kind of whimsical, ironic, sarcastic anti-folk singer. What am I doing writing a song to my inner child? But that it ended up helping me. So and I do love that song. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah. I know the album, just came out a little while ago, but have you had anyone come up to you about that song, about how maybe it helped them as well?
Well, the albums kind of came out so recently that, and I'm actually like going on, I did some shows on the West Coast. I did a show in New York. Next week I'll be in Memphis. That's funny. Not Memphis, Nashville, Louisville, and Atlanta. So when I've done them live, it's something that I didn't count on that's never happened in my career is that song and the song Firefly, which I wrote for my brother.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it's true. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's true. All the nights you called me when you thought you were having fun. All the time told me that you'd outlive the sun. When you came by on Thursday, you'd fallen down the stairs. The night before at Gemma, I pretended not to care. I remember the nights I was wondering if you'd ever stop. You walk into the train in Montauk. It didn't bother you at all. Sunday to bring your ashes home. They left you in the mailbox, your heart, your skin and bones. I remember the night you were dancing with the fireflies on the lawn, stars going on and off around you until they all were gone. Firefly, firefly, firefly.
I've never had people weep at when I play audibly.
Right.
And that's happened. That's happened at shows now when when I play, especially Firefly, which of course, if you write a song with the intention of having somebody weep, it will be the worst song that any human being's ever written, and it's the last thing on my mind. But it does make me realize, yeah. And when I was in Houston and I did a show, I mean, it's not Song to Jamie, but Firefly again is very personal and about loss. A couple had a son who had died from the disease of addiction, and they were just, I sat down with them after the show and we talked about it, and it was all, and they were really, I guess they were comforted by that song, which is a profound gift for me.
Yeah, music does have that, power.
It can,
It
right?
can, yeah, it's also gives you like a memory, it's like, 4 minutes you listen to it, it automatically brings you back to a certain point in your life, or just comforts you, and some things like that TV or movie or anything like that really can't, it just has that powerful grip on you.
No doubt. I mean, it does that happens to me
Yeah.
all the time. And movies do that, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Yeah.
There are these movies there are these works of art that just don't exist in time. They just exist, and
Right.
they're always very present. So for me, it's like a new chapter in my performing life to be able to share, I guess, some of the more the sadder parts, or the sadder parts, or disappointing parts maybe of my life, and that's not something I ever investigated particularly in my songwriting.
Yeah. Is it hard for you to not get emotional while performing these songs?
I think it's good to, but I never know, you when I have, and then it just happens naturally. I mean, you don't want to start sobbing, because
Right.
then there's the song. But I mean, if if we think about when I'm playing and I'm in the moment and I'm connected to the deeper harmony of my soul, then anything can happen, you know, all sorts of emotions. And and it's really fun, you know. It's like reading your diary
Hmm.
at a mic, you know, you don't really know what's going to happen.
Right.
So, but watching the reaction again is just a trip for me, and it's not something that I ever think about. Like, I'm gonna write this song this way because when I play it live, I want people to feel that way. It's just essentially to make, you know, to do something, you know, that I love
Right.
out of. And then I'm very just overwhelmed and amazed um, that people seem to be reacting to it in a way that that is meaningful to them.
Yeah. Have you noticed that your fans from the 90s have returned this album? Was it kind of hard to kind of like capture them again? Did you have to reintroduce yourself?
Well, the brilliant genius of Blake Morgan and his team is that, you know, I remember when we were starting the process, it's only about a year and a half ago. He's like, we're not going to call this a comeback. We're going to just do the things that you do that somebody would do, and then eventually people will call it that, and that's what has happened. Because when you call something a comeback, it's like again, it's sort of pretentious, and I don't really, you know. But the when the reissues came out, like "Lead Me Not into Penn Station," 1996, I couldn't re-release "Timing Is Everything" because Capitol Records owns that.
Okay.
But the Green Street Sessions and the last single guy, you know, all that's where I was kind of like, hey, I just found this, you know, this train track and this old steam engine, um, which was my career, and I'm gonna, you know, put some oil in the engine and get and tighten the screws, and I'm going to start chugging along again. And by the way, here's this release, and then they would release it, and then people started to who knew those albums. Now there was a reason to kind of like refocus on them, and they sound great now. I
Yeah.
mean, they remastered them, so I was really proud to. And those again were like, I think my monthly listeners on Spotify was like 1,000, and then now it's like 85. So, but that slowly every time, you know, we put out another one, another 2 or 3 months later, and with each one, I think I was finding people around the world that had because they would email me and message me that were happy to see me still doing this and hearing these songs again. And then of course it was all for to set up a new album, which it just came out like less than a month ago.
Yeah. I discovered, the new album, or I should say Firefly, by complete chance. You listen on Spotify and, an album finishes or song finishes, and then they'll play something that's similar to the artist you're listening to. And then,
Oh, thing.
yeah, so, Firefly came on and I looked, I'm like, oh, wow. It's like, because I haven't really heard, listened to any of your music in a while. So I'm like, oh, wow, this is really great. So, and then just I'm like, I got to talk to him, so I'm kind of glad that, it worked out that way. Because I discovered you by Lead Me Not into Penn Station.
Wow.
Yeah, so was working at my college radio station in Buffalo, doing the like sports updates, and someone had a copy of that. So I would play it and I would steal it and bring it back to my dorm. And dating myself, I would burn, not even burn a CD at that point, just make a copy of it on a cassette tape. So I did that, and yeah,
Cool.
yeah,
We used to play up in Buffalo in 1996 at a at a place called Stimulants.
That sounds familiar.
That was like a coffee shop, a cool coffee shop with
Yeah.
a stage and a P. Yeah, and I played there a bunch of times. Did I ever see you there?
No, I never saw you live yet.
Oh,
So, but yeah. But yeah, Buffalo had a pretty good music scene, and people didn't
great.
realize that. Yeah.
I loved going to Buffalo. It was fun, and everybody was yeah, it was a really cool scene, and it was really cold, and the bars
Yeah.
were up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
And there was a big drinking town, as I
Oh,
recall.
yeah. No question. I mean, and the beauty of it is like I never had a fake ID because
Right.
Canada was 20 minutes away. The drinking age there was 19, so we just go up there. And then,
Uh,
or, some bars you can show a, library card and I'll let you in Buffalo. So it didn't really matter, you know?
yeah, I didn't get a sense that there was a clamped down,
No.
you know, scene, police presence in making sure that bars were compliant. That is so funny. Wow. So that's a, you were back at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
And you know what really like kind of drew me to it was just the name of it, to sing Penn Station because I'm originally from Queens. So, oh wow, go to Penn Station a lot, go to the Garden or whatever. So it just kind of drew me in the name and then just listen to the music, which was absolutely fantastic at that point.
That makes me so happy.
Yeah.
Wow. Where do you live now?
I'm in Connecticut,
Okay, we're in Connecticut.
Fairfield County.
Where?
Fairfield County.
Okay.
Yeah. So like near Bridgeport, if you know like, that area. So, but yeah, but I travel into the city every day. So
Wow.
yeah.
Well, forgot the name of the place off the top of my head. I'm playing in July 8th in Bushwick.
Okay.
Let you know when I play. I'm playing probably at the bitter end again in the fall, and I'll make sure you're on the list.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Got to me the way back to my first album. Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, and that was great. Yeah. And you're in Rockland County, all right?
I'm not.
Oh, okay.
I left New York to raise my family, and then about 6 years ago, I came back to New York City,
Oh, okay.
and don't and I love living in New York City. I'm in
Mm,
so I was relegated to the provinces for a
mm.
period of time, but um I just love the being in New York. So I'm really, really happy. So I live in Manhattan
Oh,
now.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I get my dose 5 days a week. That's enough for me now, you know? Yeah. But I'd imagine being a New Yorker and also living up in Rockland County for a while, you still call it the Tappan Zee Bridge.
I do.
Yeah.
Actually, somebody I was talking to yesterday just said, "Oh yeah, it's between the Tappan Zee Bridge and the George Washington." And I was like, um, I probably always will.
Yeah. Same here. Same here.
Right?
Yeah. You know.
It's on a bridge now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll always be the Tappan Zee. Yeah.
So that's all right. Um, it's I used to take when I worked in the city during my when I was not doing music, I would commute into the city from Haverstraw, and I would wake up and take the ferry across
Mm,
um, the Hudson River, and then take the train down the east coast of the Hudson to
okay.
station. And a lot of that imagery showed up in the last album I put out called Whitecaps on the
Yeah.
Hudson. So yeah,
Yeah. So like what was it about like just like New York about that was such a big influence in your career?
I love that. I was in a, I went to the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, and while I was there, I was an English literature major, and which is the best major because you can read something and then just talk about it, and that's what you do.
Right.
You have to do calculus or something,
Exactly.
but one of the things I didn't wasn't counting on just by chance is that when I was an undergrad there, there was this incredible music scene, which later became known as, the Chapel Hill music scene. Not later, it was happening.
Mm.
I mean, so many bands, and then I remember Rolling Stone had a big article on us, like the next Seattle. But I mean, as a consequence, there was um, like everybody. And the reason I was thinking about, like, what are the components to a great college town music scene that ends up being an incubator for great bands? And I think there's like a few critical components, but one of them is that you have to have a radio station that plays the local bands.
Right.
Have to know as a music, as somebody, I just, Noel, Jamie, and we got a drummer, and we're like writing, and we can make a 7-inch single, and go hand deliver it, and there's a chance that they're going to play it, right? So WXYZ was that station. They just, they played all sorts of cool stuff. So you need to have a great station. You need to have clubs that really don't want to hear cover bands,
Right.
that want to hear original music.
Yeah.
And then we had tons of those. And then you need to have a bunch of people, AKA undergraduate Chapel Hill students who want to hear this
Mm.
stuff. So, you put it all together, and then you have the chance of, with that mixture of elements of creating a great scene. So I was hearing and got really just sort of got to observe it and then be a part of it. And what had happened was, I remember I was driving. This is getting to the answering your question. What isn't it? Believe me, it's critical.
Right.
Way, but I remember driving, in the car. It's probably like 1988, and I was listening to WXYZ, and this song came on, and it was a guy with an acoustic guitar and a singing, and I had never heard anything like it. I was just like, I literally pulled over my car, and I was like, what the fuck is that? I was listening to the rest of the song, and the DJ came on after, and he said, hey, that's Roger Manning, and his new album, Roger Manning, and he's a part of the anti-folk scene in New York City. And Noel, I literally turned my car around, and this was about like 10:30 at night, drove to campus, drove to the student union, went downstairs, like knocked on the door outside, and got into the radio station. I said, let me see that record. And then, of course, they were just like, here's the record, take it and go make a cassette tape right there. And I
Right.
did. But, what I started to hear, and then there was a compilation that came out a few months later called the Broom Closet Sessions. And that compiled like 10 or 12 of all the anti-folk singer, songwriter, poets, John S. Hall, King Missile, Kirk Kelly. All these guys were doing this thing with songwriting and performing that was different than anything I'd ever heard. So when I moved up there, not long after that, I went right to the East Village, and got a small apartment, and was immediately like in that world. So it was a world of, like, again, it was like, I felt like when I got to New York City and in the East Village at that time, it was like, okay, this is where everybody in the country has come to who doesn't fit in,
Right.
wants to make art. And it was just, there was an energy and an intensity. And I worked at Kinko's on 12th Street, and in that, position, I like met more bands because everybody was coming in and doing flyers for their gigs.
Right.
And then, like, within like the first couple of weeks I was in New York, I was running around with this guy, Sander Hicks, who, so we're sort of like the late arrivals to the anti-folk scene. And then, you know, all of a sudden that night we ended up in Allen Ginsberg apartment on 12th Street, and I was talking to Allen
Hmm.
Ginsberg. Uh, I just felt like I was in the exact right place for my heart and soul, and I loved it. I loved it. It's not that way anymore. These
Right.
I, I by a long shot. So if you're listening to this, don't run the. I mean, it. Uh, but I think now it's like move to Bushwick or to Detroit or wherever.
Right.
It's always there. It's just in somewhere else. So, um, yeah, I mean, all of the imagery, like on leaping out of Penn Station, a lot, and it all comes from my living in the East Village and seeing what I saw in those first few years when I came to New York. How's that for an answer? It's like a 10-minute answer for
Yeah,
you.
that worked. You know, you definitely answered it. No, that's great. So at that point, when you were at Chapel Hill, were you already considering this as a career, potential career?
No, I wasn't. I What happened is I actually never learned. I taught myself how to play guitar when I was in college. I never played
Mm.
before that, and I guess I'm sort of has OCD. I really focus. So like I learned uh the way, yeah. So I was just learning how to play guitar, and then the first like year I did that, I was just like learning. You know, I was in a dorm. There's this long, long hall, and you know, maybe like 50 dorm, you know, all the way down the hall. And I remember like I would take my guitar and I'd go knock on one of the doors, and there was always one person, there were two people in each room who knew one song on the guitar, and they would teach me that song.
Okay.
I would go to the next one. So like I learned like 50 songs, you know, like all the songs you learn on it, you know, Dylan songs and
Right.
James Taylor song. And I would just learn, you know, Tom Petty, and I would learn
Mm.
how to do it. And then I started singing and people liked it. So it was not, you know, uh, I really, when I came to but by the time I came to New York, I knew that I wanted to make it, you know, try to, I guess I never would have called it a career, but I was like, I wanted to try to do something with my songwriting that I felt would be a contribution in some way to what was going on with the anti-folk scene. And it was very exciting to me. Um, and that's what I did.
So you have, Penn Station comes out, you do it on your own is fantastic. So what brought you to Capitol Records? How did they discover you?
Well, I did Penn Station, and that was an indie release, a true indie release. And radio stations
Yeah.
started, college stations. And then I was driving around, I would go tons of shows all over the place. So, you know, by myself, which was a hell of a trip. That was wild.
Mm.
You know, really all around the country. This guy, Paul Krasner, would book like 10 shows, and and then certain places it went better. So I would go back. And then I wrote a bunch of new songs, and um, I recorded them. And then a little bit, you know, I was learning more about my sound and what I was trying to do and getting better at it. And I met Mark Hutchins while I was on tour. He was playing with the band that was going on after me, and he became my musical partner and producer. And we made what would become Timing Is Everything as another independent release. And we even got to the point of actually pressing the first wave of
Mm.
CDs with our work. And while we were on our way to South by Southwest that year, 1997, we played shows on the way there that like you do. And on the way there, we got a call from my manager saying, you know, which by the way, keep this in mind. This had happened 30 times, what
Right.
I'm about to describe. And they never worked. Like, so this was like, you know, Glenn Ballard at Capitol Records heard the record, the A&R, they love it. They want you to go to California as soon as possible and meet with them. Like,
Right.
I'd gone through the whole thing of like getting excited. Oh my gosh, because back then it was like getting signed to a major label was
Yeah.
the thing.
Right.
Sorry about that. There
That's
we
okay.
go. So I was like, okay. And then we went to South by Southwest and uh, we did the show and then we came back and they flew us to LA and I remember we went to the Capitol Records building, the iconic
Yeah.
place Frank Sinatra recorded, and we went up and we went into an office, and there was Glenn Ballard, who had just released the year before the best-selling album in the history of recorded music, Jagged Little Pills.
Right. Alanis Morissette. Yeah.
That's right. And I had gone there with this in mind. I said, okay, here's what's going to happen. Glenn's going to sit down with us and say, this is great. We can do it better. I'm Glenn Ballard. Um, and we're going to re-record it. And we want to sign you. And I had practiced what I was going to say. And what I was going to say is, I'm so honored and I really appreciate it. But thanks, but no thanks. We're going to put this, I love this
Yeah.
album. And because that was what used to happen back in the before times, is
Right.
that bands would make really great albums. They would get signed by major labels and then they would like make it great and then ruin it.
Yeah.
Like happens at that so I walked into Glenn Ballard's office and I'll never forget, he was sitting there and he had the CD and he was looking at it and he was turning it around, looking at the artwork, and he just looked up at me and he said, literally the first thing out of his mouth was, it would be a crime and a tragedy for one note on this album to be changed from what you already have. I want to master it and put it out just as it is. And I fell off my
Wow.
chair. I fell off my chair,
Yeah.
and that he was wonderful to work with, and that's exactly what they did. So that's how Timing Is Everything happened, and that album came out. We ended up changing the artwork and having this great. Oh, that's so funny. This is the artist who did the album cover for Timing Is Everything. This amazing graphic artist named
Hmm.
Sagma.
Oh, cool.
He reads covers and some other, but I just happen to have his book right here,
Hmm.
coincidentally. But and then that was and then unfortunately, the CEO of Capitol Records was fired, a new one was hired, and they
Yeah.
decided everything that they didn't sign, they didn't want to support. So I ended up getting dropped. The album was critically acclaimed. I was doing a lot of touring then, and then when we got dropped, that's when I quit. That's when
Hmm.
I had a wife and two kids, and I needed to pay a mortgage. And I said, so long, and I went off to start a wealth management practice, believe it or not, which
Hmm.
I still.
Yeah. I hear that story a lot, how artists get dropped because of new management. Why do you think that they don't keep enough artists that are already like successful, have like, track record because it's not their art and because they didn't discover them. So it's like not like, a check in, on their paper. I mean, I don't understand that.
It's pathetic,
Yeah.
uh, stupid, and bad business. And I had a lot of time to think about it afterward. One of the things that I concluded was in, the futility and stupidity of why bother signing an artist if you're not going to let them develop? So,
Right.
Springsteen, I mean, I'm not comparing myself to Bruce
Yeah.
Springsteen, but I'm comparing the process. Like Born to Run was his third album. He had a first album that didn't do that well. Bob Dylan had a first
Right.
album that well, that was actually considered, John Hammond's Folly. That's what they Bob, So Timing is Everything is a great album. People loved it. It did everything a first album is supposed to do, except I didn't have a fluky smash hit on it. So get rid of them. It's like,
Yeah.
why sign an artist if you're not going to put out a couple albums and let them develop? And
Right.
it's just the way the business was, and it's a shame. I don't regret. I mean, I think back on my life now, and I don't have a resentment about that. But it is a great question. It's like, it speaks to, what's different in the music industry. Well, from like the 60s and 70s maybe, and the way it became in the 90s. Now, interestingly enough, everybody is very negative about the world. I'm not. I mean, one of the cool things about the music business now is that that probably doesn't happen as much because, quote, getting signed to a major label is not, you couldn't make an album in the 90s unless you probably raise some money, get
right. Yeah.
The case. So there is a lot more development that happens. There's also a incomprehensible amount of artists, though. I mean, I think Blake told me that 90,000 records are put out every day worldwide.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So yeah, you get to make as many albums as you want now, but no one might hear them.
Right.
So every time in human history has its challenge, so I didn't particularly feel shortchanged. I mean, I'm very proud of the fact that album came out. I mean, a lot of my pals who were wonderful never had that happen. And then you were talking before we went on air, like one of the things that being associated with Glenn, I got my songs were placed in some pretty cool movies. One of them I'm really proud of is Never Been Kissed, which Drew Barrymore handpicked to open that film, my cover of Catch a Falling Star.
Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. Love may come and tap you on the shoulder some starlit night. And if you feel that you wanna hold her, you'll get a pocket full of starlight. Take it. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. I'll catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. And love may come and tap you when you're older and pick a fight. And if you feel that you wanna hold her, you'll need to find her in the stars tonight.
Catch a falling star and
Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. Catch catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. Catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. I'll catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. I'll catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Save it for a rainy day. I'll catch a falling star and put it in your pocket. Never let it fade away. I'll catch a falling star, put it in your pocket, save it for a rainy day. I'll catch a falling star, put it in your pocket.
And that's here we are 30 years later, and that's a great movie.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
So, anyway, it's a strange thing. You have to be your own advocate. You ultimately, that's why you got to make music and art for yourself and your friends, because its reception and how it's received and the machine that presents it to the world is completely out of your control.
Yeah, it's almost like you need someone who has the business sense and the artistic sense combined into one. I mean, I'm sure that's rare.
To ask that question, my record label president, because that's exactly what he is.
Okay, good.
Guy who's putting this album out
Right.
this is the greatest partnership I've ever had with a label. Blake Morgan, ECR Music, Meridian, is the imprint on ECR. He is an artist, a fantastic musician and singer-songwriter, and also a brilliant strategist and image maker. So it's taken a while, Noel, but I found the right guy.
Good. Yeah, good. Yeah. So I mean, like, I just rediscovered music through streaming, and I mean, now it's kind of the way the world is. So, like, what are your like thoughts and opinions about the whole streaming industry?
I mean, I think that I'm a cockeyed optimist. I'm not One of the ways that I stay sober is I was taught that you have to work gratitude and positivity like working a muscle in the gym. But it's also probably just my nature. I think it's amazing. I think the best time to do anything is right now. Period. Drop mic. That's it. There's no romantically wonderful time when everything would have been. That's not true. That's bullshit. This is the best time to make music. And I remember saying to people, this was years and years ago, I was like, this thing, Spotify, is the best thing that's ever been made. And they're like, whoa, what do you mean? And I was like, I can instantly, in my hand, listen to anything that's been recorded in the history of humanity instantaneously. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what you said. That's pretty cool.
Right.
Oh, I want to hear Walt Whitman reading Leaves of Grass. It's right there.
Yeah.
Recording of Walt Whitman in like 1880, like it's scratchy, it's an Edison cylinder, but there it is. So if you let your mind wander and your curiosity, this is great.
Yeah.
It's all magic and loss though, right? There's magic in innovation and opportunity, and at the same time there's loss. We don't have, something goes away. I mean, when the telegraph became common, whatever it was, 1880s, 90s, you could communicate between Europe and the United States basically instantaneously. eventually that got more, there were but when people could make phone calls, that's magical. I can
Mm,
call someone up and hear their voice and talk to them at the speed of light. How is that? But what's the loss? Maybe letter writing,
right.
becoming, having correspondence. So there's always magic and loss.
Yeah.
So I try to focus on the magic, and I think it's pretty magical. It's magical that, you know, the robots could tell what you listen to
Yeah.
and fed you Firefly. That makes
Yeah.
me happy.
Right. Which is great. I mean, I love it. I also love having physical copies of music. I also don't like the fact that the artists don't get, paid shit, for the Spotify streams. So I mean, it's kind of a double-edged sword a little bit.
It's true. And then there's other ways they need to get revenue, but live shows have become much
Yeah.
more because of that,
Right.
it's, but what, just since you like physical, we are going to do a uh an LP, a record
Oh,
press,
cool. Oh, nice.
which, I mean, isn't that interesting? The whole record industry has had a
Yeah.
renaissance
Which
in
is,
a profound way,
yeah, it's great, but they're so expensive now.
right?
Yeah. Like you can go into Target or Walmart and now they have big displays, but they're like $40 a piece.
Somebody told me some statistic, which I don't necessarily believe, but I think this is actually true, that like some crazy percentage of LP sales, the people who buy them never actually listen to the record once. Like 80%.
Right.
They're buying the record for the
The art, maybe, I guess.
and something to hold in there. Like, what is it that they're buying?
Yeah.
It's pretty spiritual. It's very interesting, and I was shocked by that. But so it'll be, but I must say it's going to be really fun to have an album, to have this
Yeah.
Lovecraft album. I was a little kid in the 1970s, and I would sneak into my sister's room
Mm.
and listen when she was away. I would listen to Cat Stevens and Elton
Right.
John, and and just stare at the album covers for hours.
Yeah, just seeing, the liner notes and, who worked on it and then the lyrics, it was fantastic, it was really good. I recently had to buy a record player because I had all these albums and nothing to play it
Right.
on. Yeah.
You were one of the guys with the albums. Not now you can listen.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. As long as cassettes don't come back, because, those are the worst.
At some point, I think 8-track tapes did, but that, yeah, um, I think that those might be gone for
Yeah,
good.
let's hope. I mean, I have so many cassettes just, recording songs off the radio. You hear like half a song because you got to rush to play it, and record it. But yeah. But besides Spotify, probably one of the greatest apps ever is Shazam.
Oh, right, right.
Because years, you'd go into a store, you hear a song, and it's like I got to remember a couple, the lyrics, so I can go to a store and recite it to the person working there and help me find it. Now you can just walk around like a moron holding your phone up, you know, to record the song or at least get the title of it. It's great.
Yeah, and like one of the things that the label tells me when we have weekly meetings to update me on what's going on, which by the way is very nice, and not a label, a lot of labels do that.
Right.
Is Blake will say like you had seven, you had 26 Shazams in Nova Scotia, like they can see where they are.
Right.
So it's a wild thing to be able to track and see how the the thing that you've made is percolating
Yeah.
around the world.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have to ask because it's one of the most original song titles ever, and I love the song. It's I used to manage PM Dawn. So how did that come about?
That song, well, that song is one of the ones that just is exactly what happened. So that's not it was like almost like a journal entry. So I had a manager for a brief period of time in the time, like actually before Leave Me Not Independent Station, who just talked such lofty bullshit to me, about, you're going to be big, you got to do this. I used to manage PM Dawn. We look at our album cover. We actually did this album cover. We flew to Iceland and we had it taken on a glacier. And he ended up like unceremoniously, like the one A&R person he knew passed, and then he quit. He had all gotten so excited to be working with this person, and I was really pissed off. So I wrote that song.
Right.
From his perspective, to expose his, his pitch to us. So that's how that song came about.
My Brit cred's good, haven't showered in over a week. I got a brand new car and a set of yellow rotten teeth. My top is down and the sun's shining my face. Whoever said this world is not a perfect place? 'Cause I used to manage PM Dawn. 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 The sound is good. There's no doubt you're gonna make it big. The last time I saw you were a greasy little punk rock kid. But now you're singing in key and your drummer's in time. Your boys are ready, so call me when you get yourself signed. 'Cause I used to manage PM Dawn. I used to manage PM Dawn. Oh, did I tell you that I used to manage PM Dawn? I used to manage PM Dawn. I do not think a regular CD cover will work for you. We should fly you guys to Iceland and do a picture on a glacier. Just write it off. Take it as a loss. No big deal, man. Hey! It's on me! Actually, it's on you, but that's okay. Did you guys ever think about working out? Your arm's a little flabby. I'll put you on a diet. And that sexual orientation thing, we gotta get that straight. I mean, pet is so uncool. So, here's some papers. Contract, whatever. It's all standard. You don't need a lawyer. No. Trust me.
Was that really the only time that's happened to you, when you had kind of someone give you like a pitch like that, or?
Yeah, that was unique. And it was pretty much like word for word things that he said. And like I said before, when we were talking, in that period, that was not unusual for a record company to be like, "We love this. We're coming to see you play," and you get all excited.
Right.
Turn your call. So, but that was, there wasn't enough interaction to write a song about it. In this case,
There was.
hurt by him, so I wrote a song about it.
Yeah. No, it's definitely amusing. So, yeah. So having like a day job now that's obviously completely out of the record industry, how do you balance the two now with the album coming out or out now, and then doing some shows and everything? Like, how do you balance the two?
It balances really well. I really love what I do. During the day, during my day job, and it's amazing how much you can do when you're not either drunk or hungover. I will say that a pitch for sobriety, especially if you're an alcoholic. But I love it. I love it. I don't see. I mean, I think the stereotype and the cliche is like this poor, artist has to, work a dreary repetitive job during the day that sort of smashes his soul. And maybe that's true for some people, but for me, I think about that quote from Walt Whitman, in a sense, I'm contradicting myself every day. I do this thing during the day, and then I do what I do, not just at night. I also do that during the day too.
Yeah.
But, so Walt Whitman said, do I contradict myself? Very well, then I contradict myself. I am large. I contain multitudes. So, why not? I don't have I feel very blessed that I can do both.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. But Love Crash is out now. Everybody check it out. It is really, really good. And like Jamie said, all his other stuff is on streaming sites. And best of luck with the album.
And I really appreciate it. I had no idea, Noel, that you were there at the beginning, and that really means the world to me. And I hope I get to meet you in person sometime soon. This has been really fun.
And a special thanks to Block for joining me today. Go check out Love Crash as well as his previous albums. They're fantastic. You can follow him on Facebook. Just search up Block-musician. And if you have a guest suggestion, hit me up on X, formerly Twitter, at @TheFirstNoel19. Be sure to like the page Reliving My Youth on Facebook. Go to iTunes, check out all the past episodes we've had. While you're there, please rate and review the show. I would really appreciate it. Don't have iTunes? Not a problem. Shows on SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, Amazon Music, basically wherever you can find a podcast. New episode will come out next week. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you then.